No one would believe that my childhood friend tried to destroy my life, but the truth won. I never imagined I'd be here one day, writing on a personal growth forum, trying to put into words one of the hardest moments of my life. I'm not one to talk about myself much, but that day changed everything. So I think I need to tell you. I'm Rosangela, I'm 34, a doctor, and I've always believed my work, my ethics, and my story would speak for me. But on that particular day, I discovered what it's like to have your life turned upside down by someone you once trusted. Rachel, my childhood friend, the one I grew up with, the one who slept at my house, the one who knew my pain and my secrets. I never thought she could use all that against me. But she did, in a way that sounded like a soap opera, but it was real life, raw, dirty. It all started with small gossip, strange comments that reached me. I thought it was an exaggeration, that I was paranoid. But that day, when I saw the fake messages circulating with my name, it was as if the ground had been ripped out from under my feet. It was lie after lie, spread with a precision that only someone who knew me well could achieve. I was in the hospital, in the middle of my shift, when chaos began. My phone wouldn't stop vibrating, messages from colleagues, patients, people I barely knew. I opened the notifications and found a string of fake screenshots, absurd accusations, fabricated stories with personal details only someone close to me would know. They said I'd committed medical errors, that I'd cheated on my boyfriend Kaio, that I was involved in fraud schemes. All lies, but well-constructed lies, with setup, dates, even witnesses that never existed. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. I ran to the hospital bathroom, locked the door, and broke down. I cried in a way I hadn't cried since I was a child. I cried out of despair, sobbing, with the feeling that my life was over. I looked at myself in the mirror, eyes red, makeup smeared, and felt small, helpless, dirty. I wanted to disappear. I wanted it all to stop. Kaio, my boyfriend, was the first person to realize something was wrong. He called me as soon as people started tagging him in their posts too. When I heard his voice on the phone, I broke down again. I tried to explain, but I was confused, unsure where to begin. He didn't doubt me for a second, and that held me together. He told me to breathe, not to delete anything, to keep everything as evidence. He said we would prove the truth, that it was a crime. At the time, I couldn't even think about justice. I just wanted the pain to stop. I spent days without sleep, without eating properly, going to work like a zombie. The looks from my colleagues at the hospital killed me inside. I felt ashamed, even though I was a victim. And I think that was one of the worst parts, the feeling of being dirty for something I didn't do. That day, I decided to go to my parents' house. I needed a safe place, a hug that would remind me I was still human. I sat at the kitchen table with my mother, Marlene, looking at me with that look of someone who feels everything right along with you, even without saying anything. My father, Renato, was silent for a while until he asked if I had any idea who was behind it. I hesitated, but deep down, I already knew. It was Rachel. I recognized her writing style, her expressions, the details she used. My mother tried to convince me not to react, to let it go, to avoid more pain. But Kaio wouldn't let me. He said that if I kept quiet, she would continue. And it was there, that night, amid tears, fear, and anger, that I realized that either I reacted or she would destroy me forever. The next day, still shaking, I went to work. I tried to act normal, but even the sound of conversations in the hospital hallway hurt. That's when Dr. Klein, my colleague, called me in to talk. He'd seen everything online and told me he knew a lawyer who specialized in harassment and digital defamation. At the time, I thought, this is too big for me. But he looked me in the eye and said, Rosangela, you're a doctor. You save lives. Now it's yours that needs saving. Those words shocked me. For the first time since it all began, I felt a spark of strength within me. Still scared, still shaking, but that was when my process of fighting back began. The first thing I did after talking to Dr. Klein was take a deep breath and accept that I needed professional help. Until that day, I thought I could handle it on my own, that if I kept quiet, it would pass. But it didn't. Every hour I spent without reacting meant another rumor, another false post, another person believing I was who they were saying I was. So I called the number Dr. Klein gave me and scheduled a meeting with the lawyer. I was shaking on the phone, my voice cracking, but she was firm and calm. She told me I had done the right thing by not deleting anything and that I needed to gather as much evidence as possible. That same day, Kaio and I started downloading everything: screenshots, links, schedules, every detail. It was painful to see my name destroyed like that, but at the same time, it was then that I began to feel a bit of control returning to me. As I gathered evidence, my body reacted. I couldn't sleep well. Every new notification on my phone gave me butterflies. I was afraid to open it and see another lie. Even showering became difficult because my head wouldn't stop. Kaio stayed by my side, often sleeping on the couch so I wouldn't feel alone. My parents took turns caring for me and ensuring my safety. Even locking doors and windows became routine. I felt like a criminal, but I was a victim. And this is a detail only those who experience it understand. The feeling of being guilty without actually being guilty. The feeling of being ashamed of what you didn't do. It hurts more than anger. And at the same time, deep inside, a point of resistance was emerging. I started thinking, if I've survived this far, I won't let her win. The lawyer explained to me that I could file civil and criminal lawsuits, and that this wasn't just gossip, it was a crime. She advised me to file a police report and request removal of the content. I was shocked by the number of steps I had to follow, but she told me, "You're not alone. We'll do it together." And that gave me strength. Joseph, a friend who understands technology, joined the story too. He started helping me track the fake accounts, the IP addresses, the times. I remember the exact moment he found a connection between a fake profile and a number Rachel had used before. It was a mixture of relief and sadness. Relief because I was proving I wasn't crazy. Sadness because it confirmed it was really her. Meanwhile, Rachel wouldn't stop. She violated emergency court orders we'd obtained, invaded my privacy, and tried to access my hospital email. It was a silent but devastating war. Every time I thought I'd caught my breath, another wave hit. I felt anger, yes, but above all, a profound exhaustion. The kind of exhaustion that's not just physical, but mental and emotional. I'd wake up already exhausted, terrified of what I'd find on my phone, and yet I kept gathering evidence, because deep down, I knew this would be the only way to get my life back. The turning point, the moment I truly felt like I was no longer a passive victim, happened one afternoon at the lawyer's office. She showed me the entire dossier we'd put together. It was a huge folder, full of screenshots, reports, digital connections, and testimonies. She looked at me and said, "Rosangela, this is indisputable." I cried again, but this time it was different. It was a cry of anger mixed with hope. For the first time, I felt like maybe it was possible to turn things around. I was still hurt, still ashamed, still feeling judged. But in that moment, holding that folder, I thought, I'm going to beat this, even if it's the last thing I do. After that day at the office, something inside me changed. I was no longer the same scared woman who cried hidden in the bathroom. I was still afraid, of course, but it was a different kind of fear. The fear of fighting and losing. No longer the fear of being destroyed without fighting back. I started actively participating in everything, reading every line of the documents, asking questions, learning about laws I'd never heard of. I saw how cruel it is when someone uses the internet to hurt another person. It's as if the whole world can point the finger at you, even without knowing what happened. The lawyer told me the process would be long and that Rachel would probably try to manipulate everything to make herself look like a victim. And that's exactly what she did. Suddenly, posts started appearing saying I was stalking her, that I was jealous. Seeing it made me sick. But this time, I didn't cry. I just took a deep breath and kept going. Throughout the entire process, I had to endure hearings, depositions, and humiliating situations. Some people looked at me as if I were making it up. Once, leaving a hearing, I sat in the car and cried again, but this time it was out of rage. I thought, how can someone destroy another person's life and still play the victim? I saw Rachel trying to cry in court, lying with a naturalness that scared me. But in that moment, seeing Kaio holding my hand kept me going. He looked at me and said softly, "Don't let go now, you're almost there." And I knew he was right. The lawyer told me this too, that those who tell the truth may take time, but they win. Joseph was crucial during this phase. He managed to prove the authorship of several fake profiles. The digital evidence was clear. The IP address was the same one used in Rachel's previous logins. Her defense tried to allege hacking, technical error, anything that would clear her of blame. But the evidence was too strong. Even so, each hearing was torture. I left drained, exhausted, feeling like with every word I relived it all: the shame, the fear, the feeling of being exposed. But at the same time, each step was a victory. Small, but real. I began to realize that I was no longer just a victim. I was becoming someone fighting for my own dignity. My family was my safe haven. My parents held me together in a way I can never thank them enough. My mother would lie awake at night, worried about what they might do to me. My father, even though he was more reserved, was the one who gave me the most security. He would say, "Rosangela, no one destroys character with lies." And as simple as it was, that phrase stuck with me. I repeated it to myself when it seemed like everything was going to fall apart. Sometimes in the wee hours of the morning, I would stare at the ceiling and wonder if it would all ever end. I was afraid I would never find peace again, afraid that the internet would never forget. But somehow, each day, I felt a little stronger. The day Rachel broke the second court order was the hardest. She posted again, even after the judge ordered absolute silence. And it wasn't just provocation, it was cruel. She used an old photo of me with my mother and wrote disgusting things. I felt anger, disgust, downright hatred. I grabbed my phone, trembling, and sent everything to my lawyer. In less than an hour, we filed a new request, and the judge authorized more severe measures. In that moment, I realized she was self-destructing. The more she tried to hurt me, the more she revealed her true colors. I began to understand that winning wasn't just about proving myself right. It was about seeing the truth emerge, even if slowly. After that last violation, I began to understand that Rachel wouldn't stop because she couldn't deal with her own frustration. It was an obsession, an unhealthy need to see myself broken. I remember looking in the mirror one day and barely recognizing myself. Dark circles under my eyes, a tired body, an exhausted mind. I was no longer the smiling doctor patients saw in the office. I was on automatic. But something inside me told me I couldn't deliver what she wanted. She wanted to see me broken, and I wasn't going to give her that. So I started doing little things for myself. I went back to therapy, started running in the mornings again, turned off my phone at night. I needed to remember who I was outside of that pain. And it was incredible to realize that, even hurt, I still existed. That I could still feel peace for moments, even when the chaos was outside. It was around this time that Emily, Rachel's younger sister, contacted me. I almost couldn't believe it when I saw her name on the screen. She asked to meet me in person. I confess I trembled with fear, thinking it was some kind of trap, but I accepted. We met at a discreet cafe. She was nervous, and the first words she said were, "I'm sorry for everything my sister did to you." I remained silent. Emily told me that Rachel had always harbored a kind of envy disguised as admiration, that since childhood, she'd tried to compete with me in everything. Hearing that was strange, because I'd never seen Rachel like that. I'd only seen her friend. But the pieces started to fall into place. Emily also said that her sister was out of control, that she couldn't accept losing control of situations. That scared me, but it also gave me a sense of clarity I hadn't had before. After that conversation with Emily, I began to see everything from a different perspective. Rachel wasn't just bad, she was sick. That didn't justify what she did, but it explained the extent of what I was facing. The lawyer advised me not to have direct contact with her, but I confess that at times I considered confronting her. I wanted to look her in the eye and ask why, but I knew it wouldn't work. So I channeled that desire into something else, taking care of myself and moving forward with the process. And that's when I realized how much the right support changes everything. Kayo, Joseph, my parents, even my coworkers began treating me with more empathy when they understood what was happening. The suspicious silence gave way to looks of respect. I began to breathe easier. The following hearings were easier for me. I no longer cried when I heard her name. I spoke firmly, showed the evidence, and answered confidently. The lawyer even commented that I seemed like a different person. And I really was. It wasn't that the pain had gone away. It had just shifted. I no longer carried the shame, just the desire to end it all. When the judge handed down the first favorable ruling, acknowledging the defamation and online harassment, I cried, but not from sadness. It was a pure cry of relief, of someone who survived the hurricane. I remember leaving the room and hugging Kayo. He simply said, "I told you you would win." And I replied, "I haven't won yet, but now I know I will." The final victory came months Later, with the full sentence. Rachel was convicted of defamation, invasion of privacy, and failure to comply with court orders. When I read the document, my hands trembled. I stood still for a few minutes, staring at those words. It wasn't joy I felt. It was a quiet peace, as if I could finally breathe without fear. I didn't jump, I didn't scream, I didn't post anything. I just closed my laptop and went to the balcony. I sat and stared at the sky, remembering everything I'd experienced. It was there, in that silence, that I understood that winning wasn't about destroying the other, but about reclaiming myself. After the sentencing, life didn't instantly return to normal. I was still afraid of strange messages, judgmental looks, rumors. But the difference was that I finally had the tools and evidence to protect myself. I realized that strength isn't about not feeling fear, but about continuing despite it. I returned to work with more focus, more calm. Every patient who entered the Y office was a reminder that I could still save lives, even after nearly losing my own dignity. My parents remained by my side, and Kaio never stopped holding my hand in moments of insecurity. I began to understand that asking for help isn't weakness, it's intelligence. And that, even with all the pain Rachel caused me, I didn't have to carry the weight alone. I still remember the nights I'd stare at the ceiling, my entire body aching with emotional exhaustion. But those nights were fading. Each step taken, each court hearing won, each piece of evidence presented, gave me back pieces of myself I'd thought were lost. Joseph became almost like a brother, always helping me understand the digital pathways, the traces we left and the ones Rachel tried to erase. I learned to read the signs, to not trust appearances, but also to believe in what I could control. And this gave me a sense of power I'd never felt before. It wasn't power over her, it was power over my own life. Looking back is strange. I still feel angry sometimes, especially when I remember her audacity in attacking me with such lies and precision. But anger now fuels me, not paralyzes me. I know that nothing she did erases who I am. And most importantly, I learned that life isn't fair, but justice exists, even if it takes time. Today, when someone asks me about that period, I tell them the truth. It hurts, it's tiring, it makes me cry. But it also teaches me. It teaches me to have boundaries, to value true support, to be resilient. I've become a version of myself that doesn't give in easily, that protects those I love, and that knows I don't need to cower in the face of other people's cruelty. I know the wound will never completely disappear. I'll remember Rachel, the lies, the humiliations, but today I clearly remember how I resisted, how I managed to transform fear into strategy, pain into focus, tears into action, and that's something no one can take away from me. With each step, I rebuilt my life, my work, my reputation. With each small victory, I felt like I was back in control. I didn't become perfect, but I became stronger, more aware, and better prepared to face life. Today, I write this because I know someone, somewhere, may be going through something similar. I want you to know that it's possible to overcome, even when it seems like everything is falling apart. My story isn't a fairy tale or a movie. It's about real people, with fear, shame, anger, exhaustion, and pain. But it's also about people who found strength within themselves, support from the right people, and the clarity to react. If you're in the middle of the hurricane, don't give up. Breathe, seek help, organize your evidence, trust those who are by your side, and don't blame yourself for what you didn't do. It's possible to rebuild, even with scars. And when the truth finally comes out, the weight you carried will transform into freedom.